called it the United People of Luton, which then come into the English Defence League. Now, from the offset, I noticed the tactics by the police, the arrests, the harassment, just non-stop. If I would be here all day if I brought you through each thing, but I'll bring you through the prison sentences, how they got me in prison. So first of all, I was due to go to Scotland. I went to Luton Airport. I was held by Special Branch. Special Branch is for serious crime. They arrested me, they took me to the police station. Then they told me that they're raiding properties linked to me. They went to my mum and dad's house, ransacked the house. They went to my house with my children in with machine guns. And they went to, this was the start of the message. You know, I think they've tried to teach you a message this weekend. This was my first message, which the message was shut up. Now, the day they arrested me, this is when it gets really dirty, is when they arrested me, they gave me bail conditions. So they arrested me on a criminal damage charge. They said that when I stayed in a hotel in the city of Sheffield, there was £30 worth of damage done to a door that connects the hotel room door in the corridor. And I fitted the description of the person that done it. And I'm like, that's really why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here for a £30 criminal damage on a hotel door. You've raided my house and my mother's house. And all of this come out. And when it comes to bailing me, they gave me bail conditions for 3 weeks. And when they bailed me, the bail conditions were to not contact the English Defence League, not send emails. Okay? My bail date was perfect. I was due to be speaking in the very early days of the English Defence League. You may have heard of the grooming scandal
Yes.
where the Muslim men have been gang raping young English children. Well, at this time, no one was talking about it, and it was still a secret. And the police had managed to conspire to keep it silent and hidden for 30 years. Then comes along our organisation, where we're screaming it on the streets. We're holding banners and placards saying you're raping our kids. We're giving speeches. So I was due to speak in Yorkshire, where Rotherham is, in the same area. And I was due to give a speech on this exact thing. So when they arrested me, my bail conditions were not to enter that town, and the date I had to answer bail was at the exact time of the demonstration I had planned. This was all politically motivated. This whole fabricated case, I actually put in, through the IPC, which is the Independent Police Complaints Commission, I put in a complaint asking how they got warrants, how they got this. And it took me 2 years to get the results, but the results of this actually come out, that they accepted. They accepted everything. They accepted that it was politically motivated. They accepted that they sent police officers on training courses. They accepted they should never have raided my house or my home, but that didn't matter, okay? Because the reason to do it was to prevent me talking about grooming, to prevent me exposing what's happening. So that was the start of a continued campaign. 3 months later, I'm in the same property. The door comes in again. 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what now? And when I said to the police officer, okay, you're doing your job. And he said, I'm sorry, Stephen. I said, what do you mean you're sorry? Just do your job. He said, we're here to arrest your wife. I said, you're going to arrest my wife? Exactly what they've just done now. What I believe they've done to you this weekend was to teach your partner, Martin, a lesson and to intimidate him. And they arrested my wife, who was 6 months pregnant. I said, you're taking my wife, she's 6 months pregnant. What are you taking us on? And they arrested me and her on tax irregularities. You're America's IRS. Yep. We're arresting you on tax irregularities, which this wasn't the tax man, this was the police. They then arrested me at that point, and they arrested my wife, and then they bailed us on charges of money laundering and tax evasion. We were bailed, and we had to answer bail every 6 weeks for 3 years. So we had to keep going back and answering bail. My wife had to sit an 8-hour interview 4 times. Yeah? She come out each time like a broken woman. Now, all of this was the start of a case against me where they charged me with mortgage fraud in the end. They went through, basically, what they'd done is they went through every single member of my family, and they went back 10 years. And they got court summonses behind our backs without us knowing to get all the bank accounts and all the statements and everything to do with businesses and money and finance. And they just dissected and went through every member of my family. They done my mum and dad's. They were trying to arrest my mum and dad. They done my mum and dad, my wife, me, and all of this was to get me in a position in the end, which is what worked. Because in the end, I stood trial for this offence. I stood trial for tax evasion, and I got a not guilty within 30 minutes, literally straight away, because I'd given no comment interview the whole way through. And when we got into court and I produced everything and explained everything, I was walked out of court. So then, but I knew this was never about, they arrested my wife, arrested my other family members, they arrested multiple family members. And I told them at the time, and I don't know, the pressure that it brings to have family members crying, your mum begging you, your family begging you, stop, 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 can you see what this is doing here? That's why they're doing it.
Exactly. That's the thing. They know that no matter what they do to you, you're not going to stop. They know, and then they realize, okay, so you're not vulnerable. Let's go after who you love. And then that hurts you, and it makes it a million times harder.
They put me on a financial restraining order. They froze my assets. They closed my companies. At the start of the English Defence League, I owned 7 properties and I had 2 successful businesses. I think my plumbing business turned over £400,000 that year. So we were successful. They froze everything. They closed everything. They used laws that were introduced by the Labour government to deal with terrorists to deal with me, because I was exposing and talking about crimes from the Islamic community. So they'd done that, they seized my assets, and then they put me under an order. I was only allowed to spend £250 a week. And if I spent over that, I'm in contempt of court, contempt of my court order, and I'll go to prison, which was the most difficult thing to try and live with, because I'd always worked, I'd always had ambition, and always had my next focus on what I'm doing. And here I am, frozen, assets frozen, can't work, can't do anything. To be honest, they created me, because if they hadn't frozen my assets and hadn't done all this to my family, then I never would have been able to continue doing it, because I had so much to lose.
Right.
But once they took everything and they put me in that position, and then with my wife, so I've gone to court, I've got a not guilty. That night that I've got a not guilty, in court, as soon as I got not guilty, in court, they stood up and said, my wife's name will stand trial in 2 weeks. They give a date for my wife to stand trial. I then had to go home and sit down with my wife and say, you're in court in 2 weeks. They're trying you for tax. Now, I live a separate life. Anyone who doesn't know, I live a separate life to my wife and my kids. So if we travel somewhere in the car, I'll make them go in one car, I go in another car. If I don't walk the streets, because I have people who want to kill me. I've managed all these years on that there's no image of my wife online, which is quite hard in modern day.
Absolutely.
There's no images or pictures of her anywhere, right? And I've managed to do that. And now here she is going to be put into a court case. In the court case, when they give her court date, were far left groups and Muslim groups all waiting at every one of my court cases, all the journalists, all the media. So I have to go home and tell her, darling, you're going to walk into court in 2 weeks, you're going to be photographed, and your whole life's about to change. Because when I walk down the street, anyone can see it, I get confronted, I get attacked. Just this week I was attacked again. So I went home and told her that. 5 o'clock that morning, our door goes again. Yeah, it's counter-terror police. And they're there to issue us with an Osman warning. An Osman warning is a government warning that someone is intending to and planning to kill you. Now, the group that were intending to kill us were Al-Shabaab, and this was just after the Kenyan shopping mall massacre, where they killed everyone in Kenya. And I'd been named to be killed at all costs. So then I question, have I? This is all part of a game, all part of a mind game, where all of this is the pressure building. My wife's scared, now the terrorists want to get us. All of this is going on. When I get to court, because I'm in court again the next week, I'm in court facing a mortgage fraud trial. There's no evidence on me. The case what they actually got me on, in the end, it was nothing to do with, I had 7 mortgages, they were all legit. My brother-in-law, my wife's little brother had a mortgage. I lent him a deposit for his first house, and he lied about how much he earned on his mortgage form. He bought his property, he sold the property a year later. This was all 6 years before. It's just the little legalities they managed to bring us into court. I then sit down in court, and I'm told that if I plead guilty to the charges I face, then they drop my wife's charge, they drop my friend's charge, they drop my cousin's charge, they drop all of their charges. So then I'm faced with a situation where I get 5 years in. So I say, how long do I get now? And the solicitor said 5 years. I go outside, and funny enough, I documented all this. I've got all of this. I went outside and ran my wife and said, I'm going to get 5 years, but you don't have to go to court. She absolutely broke down, because she knew I haven't done the crime that they're trying to put me in jail for. She broke down, and we argued, and she said, you can't do that. I've got 3 kids, 5 years is a long time. I went back into court and said, I don't accept your deal. So let's go to trial. Because I know I'm getting a not guilty. Now, the minute I get a not guilty on these charges, I can destroy what they've done. They've closed my businesses. They've ruined my life. They've financially tried to break me with nothing on all these things. But they need me to plead guilty. So then they swore the jury, and I had 3 Muslims sworn in on my jury. Then just before the trial starts again, they say, they offer me another deal. Plead guilty to these charges, which were lesser charges, lesser amounts of fraud. So then I asked my solicitor, how long do I get for that? The solicitor said, you'll get 2 years tops. So I said, 2 years, that means I'm going to serve 9 months in jail. I'm taking it. So, because I don't want my wife to still enjoy her freedom that she enjoys today. Right. I don't want her to be in danger. So I took the deal, I said, okay, I'll plead guilty.
And she was also pregnant still at this time?
No, she'd had had all the babies, yeah. Well, she was pregnant. This went on for 4 years. Mm. This case, do you know what? It's a hard thing to explain because it did nearly break me, because I can take a punch in the nose, yeah, every day. More so than the destruction and the mental problems from what they'd done to my family. Because I said, when I started talking about Islam or ready to take on Islam, I knew the consequences. I fully well knew people are going to want to kill me. And I was ready for that. I don't know if I was really ready, but I was ready for it. But what I wasn't ready for was the full weight of the state. Yeah. Unbelievable.
But as you said, I think they made the worst mistake because they didn't take almost everything from you, leaving something that still made you vulnerable. They essentially took everything from you, creating what you are now and making you absolutely determined.
I'm a stubborn little, very stubborn little. And so I took that deal, and my wife, everything was dropped against her. I pleaded guilty, so they got what they wanted. That's what you've got what you wanted. They then put me to prison, and I was sent to Wood Hill prison. Now, in between this 4 years of this case, I illegally entered your country, and I illegally entered your country in 2012. And I did that because in 2011, I tried to enter America. I was held at JFK Airport. I was deported. And the reason they gave me was that the British had told them not to let me in. They said, usually there's a bit of leeway here. We've been completely asked from your side, you're not coming in. Like, you're going back. So I thought, okay. So the next year come, I think it was the 10-year anniversary, maybe, 10-year anniversary of September 11th. And I wanted to go pay my respects, but I also felt that I wanted to give a warning to America. And I felt the warning was that important, that I knew what I was doing was illegal. I used a friend's passport, and I come to America, and I actually got in. I got told to go to a waiting room, and I went straight out of the airport.
Crazy.
And I gave a speech. And I knew what I was doing was wrong, but the whole way through it, I thought, if I'm morally right, I wish someone come to my country and warned me 20 years ago, warned our citizens 30 years ago, this is what's going to happen. Now, I've lived in Luton, I've experienced my whole life of Islam, so I come with a warning to America. Now, I wasn't charged by the Americans, I was arrested by the British 6 weeks later, and I was sentenced to 12 months in jail.